Deathtrap, a thriller in 2 acts. One set, 5 characters, a juicy murder in Act 1, unexpected developments in Act 2, sound construction, good dialogue, laughs in all the right places, highly commercial.
Why, that's wonderful, darling. I'm so happy for you, for both of us.
Happy? Why on earth happy?
Well, it's yours, isn't it? The idea you had in August.
The idea I had in August has gone the way of the idea I had in June, and the idea I had in whenever it was before then. Into the fireplace, up the chimney, and out over Fairfield County. Pollution in its most grisly form. Now, this arrived in the mail this morning. It's the property of one Clifford Anderson. He was one of the twerps at the seminar. Dear Mr. Brule, I hope you don't mind my sending you my play Deathtrap, which I finished retyping at 2 o'clock this morning. Since I couldn't have written it without the inspiration of your own work and the guidance and encouragement you gave me last summer, I thought it only fitting that you should be the first person to read it. If you find it 1/10 as good as any of your own thrillers, I'll consider my time well spent and the fee for the seminar more than adequately recompensed.
That's nice.
No, it isn't. It's fulsome. Please excuse the copy. The local Xerox machine is on the fritz, and I couldn't stand the thought of waiting a few days to send my firstborn child off to its spiritual father. My italics, his emetics. I hope you'll call or write as soon as you've read it and let me know whether you think it's worthy of submitting to, etc., etc. Son of a bitch even types well. I think I remember him. Enormously obese, glandular condition, 400 pounds. I wonder where he got my address.
From the university.
Yes, probably.
Is it really that good? His first play?
It can't miss. A gifted director couldn't even hurt it. It'll run for years. The stock and amateur rights will feed and clothe generations of Andersons. It could easily be opened up into a movie. George C. Scott or Michael Caine.
I love him.
The damn thing is perfect.
I should think that you'd be proud that one of your students has written a saleable play.
For the first time in 11 years of marriage, darling, drop dead.
Oh, my goodness.
I am green with envy. I'd like to beat the wretch over the head with that mace there, bury him in a 400-pound hole somewhere, and send the thing off under my own name to David Merrick or Hal Prince or... Now, that is the best idea I've had in ages.
My poor Sydney.
I mean, what is the point of owning a mace if you don't use it once?
You'll get an idea of your own any day now, and it'll turn into a much better play than that one.
Don't bet on it. Not that you have any money to bet with.
We're doing very nicely in that department. Not one creditor beating at our door.
Yes, but for how long? I've practically cleaned you out now, haven't I?
We've cleaned me out. It's been a joy and a delight every bit of the way. Besides, your next play will simply have to be a terrific smash.
Oh, thanks. That's what I needed. An easing of the pressure.
Why don't you call it to Merrick's attention? Maybe you could get a commission of some kind.
A finder's fee, you mean?
That's what it's called.
A great and glorious 1%, maybe 1.5%?
Or better yet, produce it yourself. You've been involved in enough productions to know how it's done, and it might be a beneficial change of pace.
Darling, I may be devious and underhanded enough to be a successful murderer, but not, I think, a Broadway producer. One mustn't overestimate one's talents.
Elaborate with him. Isn't there room for improvement in the play as good as it is? The professional touch, a little reshaping and sharpening.
Now that's a possibility.
And I'm sure he'd jump at the chance to work with you.
We'd split 50-50.
And you'd get top billing.
Naturally. Reverse alphabetical order, dear boy. It's done all the time.
On the basis of who you are.
Sidney Fourflop's Rule.
Sydney, author of The Murder Game Rule.
Oh, yes, the murder game. I remember that one. It was back in the time of King Arthur, wasn't it?
Not quite that long ago.
18 years, love. 18 years. Each one flying faster than the one before. Nothing recedes like success. Ooh, that is a good one. I could work that in somewhere, have some has-been actor say it. Recedes, E-D-E?
Yes, you see, you wouldn't prove it.
Right, give it the inimitable Sidney Brule flavor. Close in Boston.
Call him now. Where does he live?
He's up in Milford. You sure you don't like the mace?
No, too much blood. And the next day, Helga Tendorf would be picking it up on her psychic vibrations.
From Holland? I doubt that very much.
Sydney, what were you smoking Friday night when the rest of us were smoking grass? She's taken the McBain cottage for 6 months. Paul Wyman is doing a book with her. He was impersonating her for 15 minutes.
Oh, I thought he was finally coming out of the closet.
You see what a fine murder you'd be. Helga Tendorf practically moves in on your doorstep, and you manage not to hear about it.
That does give one pause.
Well, it certainly should. Ned and Tom Weston had her for dinner last week. She told Tom about his backaches and the money put in silver and his father's thing for tall women. And she warned Nan that their au-pair girl was going to leave, and she did 2 days later. And she found a pair of Nan's keys that she had lost in 1969. They were underneath the clothes dryer.
Wow. And she is staying over at the McBain cottage, huh?
Right over yonder. She's probably picking up our blips on her radar this moment, most likely.
Well, it looks like Mr. Anderson has got himself a collaborator. Not that I really believe in ESP.
Oh, the police in Europe seem to. That's half of why she's here. She's supposed to be resting from pointing at murderers.
Wait a minute. The fat one didn't stay the whole week, and his name was Quinn or Quincy or something like that. Anderson. I wonder if he's the one with the awful stammer.
Easy way to find out.
Yes. This could be a 3-hour conversation. It's busy. He's probably talking to Merrick. What's for dinner?
Salmon.
Again?
Yes. Sydney, you wouldn't actually kill somebody for another successful play, would you?
Oh, don't be foolish, darling. Of course I would. Spoken in jest, Miss Tendor.
It's Mrs. She's divorced.
Well, no wonder. Who could stay married to a woman with ESP? Well, don't fixate with that basilic stare, whatever a basilic happens to be. Wouldn't you like to go to Sardi's again, secure in the knowledge that we will not be seated in the kitchen? Do you know how much money this play could net its author in today's market? $2 million, and that is not including the Deathtrap t-shirts. Now, if that is not a reasonable motive for murder, I would like to know what is. I wish you hadn't told me about her. Oh, here we go. Hello, Clifford Anderson? Sidney Brule. Yes, as a matter of fact, I have. I just finished it about 15 minutes ago, and I must tell you in all sincerity that you have got yourself an enormously promising first draft. I was just telling my wife, Myra, that if you give it the reshaping that it needs, point it up in the right places, and work in some laughs, it'll be right up there with Sleuth and the Murder Game and Dial M. I mean, it has all the makings, as we say. Yeah, well, I'm sure you would be. Oh, I know that feeling all too well. I was sure that the Murder Game was finished the first time around, but then someone with much more experience in the theater took it in hand and revised it with me. Improved it tremendously, I don't mind admitting. George S. Kaufman. Well, he didn't take any credit, although God knows I urged him to, because he was badly in debt at the time, and he didn't want it known that he had a share in the royalties. But look, I could be quite wrong about this. What sort of reaction have you been getting from other people? Oh, no one? Well, that's very flattering, but I mean, certainly someone has read it. Your friends, your wife, some of the other twerk people from the seminar. Oh, I see. Well, that sounds ideal. Complete isolation. And all you have to do is check the thermostat and water the plants. I'm surprised you've only written one play since July. I'd have tossed off 3 or 4 by now. Yes, I am, yes. A marvelous thriller. It's about a woman with ESP. It's based on the life of Helga Tenthorpe, you know, the Dutch psychic. She's a neighbor of ours. Yeah. It's called The Frowning Wife. No, that's just a working title. I'm going to have to come up with something jazzier than that. And listen, by the way, I love Deathtrap. I mean, the title as well as the play, or the proper first draft, I should say. Yes, I do. Far too many to give them over the phone. Perhaps we could get together sometime and go through the manuscript scene by scene. I'm free tonight, as a matter of fact. Why don't you drive on down? It's not very far. Oh, well, why don't you take the train down and I'll pick you up at the Westport station and run you over. Yeah. You know, it will be better that way. You'd have a hell of a time finding us. We are way off into the woods. We have to send up flares whenever we're expecting people. Yeah. I'll hold on. His car is in for repairs. He's house sitting for a couple who are in Europe, unmarried.
Is he open to the idea of collaborating with you?
I think he might be. Was George S. Kaufman alive when the murder game was? Yep. Oh no. That's a little early. When's the next one? Oh, that's far too late. Okay. Well, let's make it the 7:29. And there's an 11:00 something from New York that I'm sure stops in Milford, so you'll have no trouble at all about getting back home. Can you bring the original? Yeah, the carbon is a bit hard on these weary old eyes of mine. Right. Okay, 7:29. And, oh, Terrence. Do you mind if I call you Terrence? Why? Oh, Clifford. Clifford! I'm sorry, Clifford. Yes, I have some errands to run with Clifford, so I will be a few minutes. I'll be there eventually. Just wait at the train stop, and I'll be there eventually in a navy blue Mercedes. Goodbye. I think he's the one without obvious defects.
What errands do you have to run?
Didn't you say something about library books, picking them up, dropping them off?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I thought you did. The Xerox machine has been fixed, but he decided to wait a few days longer in case I had any small suggestions to make. No one else has read it. No one even knows that he's working on it.
And no one will see you picking him up.
Yes, that did cross my mind. I am so in the habit of planning crimes on paper.
Why did you ask him to bring the original?
Well, you heard me. The carbon is a bit of a strain, and we need 2 copies to go through. I don't want him leaning over my shoulder for 2 hours exhaling cheeseburger.
I'm sure he has another carbon copy filed away somewhere.
Yes, no doubt, and all of his notes and early drafts and outlines. Opening night of my dazzling triumph. His gray-haired mother comes down the aisle accompanied by the Westport and the Milford police departments. Hello? Oh, Lottie, hi. No, I don't think so. I have an idea that I'm working on, and I don't want to lose touch with it. It's in its embryo state. But Myra might want to. Hang on. They're going to that French thing over at the Fine Arts, too. I could drop you off.
No, I don't want to see it. Not tonight.
Yeah, Lottie, Myra will take a pass, too. She's feeling a bit under the weather. Well, give us a full report on it tomorrow, okay? Goodbye. You don't have to stand guard over me. I only kill when the moon is full.
Why did you lie to her just now? Why didn't you tell her someone is coming to see you?
Is it any of their business? I don't know why I lied. I'm just a liar, I guess.
The moon was full last night, except a small sliver down near the bottom.
Really? Well, then I shall just have to exercise massive self-control and remind myself of that carbon which almost certainly exists.
Sydney, if not for that, would you? Could you?
Probably not. Probably I would just chicken out, even if he is the tiny one. They say that committing murder on paper siphons off the hostile impulses, and I'm sure it does, but at the same time, it opens one to the idea of committing real murder. Gives it the familiar feel of a possibility worth considering. Just like owning weapons and handling them opens one, however slightly, to the idea of using them. But there is a world of difference between a paper victim and a real one. No. Mr. Clifford Anderson will return home tonight in the same state of health in which he arrived. Manuscript clutched in tiny or huge or relatively normal hands.
I'm sure he'll jump at the chance to work with you. And afterwards, you'll do a play that's all your own.
Yes, I'm sure I shall, someday.
Maybe you could do a play based on the life of Helga Tendorf, except not called The Frowning Wife.
The Smiling Wife, a cheerful opera kind of thriller. You know, there's something in this. A playwright who's undergoing a dry period is sent a newly hatched play by a twerp who took his seminar. Oh, that's a good possible opening, isn't it? Provided the play was obviously commercial and the playwright had a room full of weapons.
Put it in your notebook.
Yes, I shall. Pity he's got the title Deathtrap. But they were out of 9s at the hardware store, so I backdated it 10 years.
Oh, well, it's a beautiful house.
Yeah, the Historical Society had kittens. But once you had, you could always tell an authentic colonial by the visitor's bruised foreheads.
Hello.
This is my wife, Myra. This is Clifford Anderson.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Please, come in. I was beginning to worry.
Is this the room that you work in?
How did you guess?
Well, the typewriter and all these... Oh my God, is that the mace that was used to murder his child?
Yes, and this is the dagger from the murder game. It is extremely sharp. Remember, the trick one was substituted in Act 2.
In for the kill.
Yes.
I can't understand why that play didn't run.
Critics peeing on it might be the answer.
The train must have been late, was it?
Oh no, the train was on time. Mr. Rule was late.
Yeah, I had to get gas, and Frank insisted on fondling the spark plugs.
Did you know that Gunpoint was the first play I ever saw? I had an aunt in New York, and I came down one Saturday on the train by myself, another first, from Hartford. She took me to see the matinee. I was 12 years old.
If you're trying to depress me, you've made it.
How? Oh, I'm so sorry. That's how I got hooked on thrillers.
Ah, yeah, Angel Street did it for me. Bella, Where is that grocery bill? What have you done with it, you poor wretched creature? I was 15, I think.
Sounds like a disease, being passed from generation to generation.
It is a disease. Thrilleritis malignus, the fevered pursuit of the one-set, five-character moneymaker.
Oh, well, I'm not in it for the money. Not that I wouldn't like to have some so I could work in a place like this, but, well, that's not why I wrote Deathtrap.
Well, you're still an early case.
It's not a disease, it's a tradition. A superbly challenging theatrical framework in which every possible variation seems to have been played. I mean, can I conjure up a few new ones? Can I startle an audience that's been on Angel Street, that's dialed in for murder, that's witnessed the prosecution, that's played the murder game?
It's a lovely speech, and thank you for saving me for last.
I was coming to sleuth.
I'm glad I stopped.
So am I. I'm a bit euphoric about all that's been happening.
Well, I should think you would be.
Would you like something to drink?
Oh, yes. Do you have any ginger ale?
Yes. Sydney, scotch?
No, dear, I think I'll have ginger ale, too.
These aren't all from your plays, are they?
Oh, God, no, I haven't written that many. No, people give me things now, and I prowl the antiques shops.
There's a disease.
Yes, and a super excuse for not working. That pearl-handled one at the top there, I found in Ridgefield just the other day. It's 18th century German.
Well, it's beautiful.
And as you can see, I'm taking very good care of our spiritual child, lock and key.
And I have the original right here, too.
Oh, thank God. I really should be wearing glasses, but my doctor tells me that the longer I can do without them, the better off I'll be.
It's not a binder for the Xeroxing.
Oh, that makes no never mind.
Oh, I've also got my first draft in here, too. There's a Diane and Carlo scene that I may have been wrong to cut, and the Diane and Richard scene starts earlier, before they know Carlo is back.
Did you do several drafts?
That's just the one. It's a mess, but I'm hoping that you can decipher it. If you'd like to see them.
Yes, of course. I had a feeling that there was a Diane Carlo scene that I wasn't seeing. Is it before the murder?
Oh, yes. I was scared that the act would run too long.
What else do you have in there?
Oh, I have my outline, which I departed from considerably. I made it the way you suggested, a page per scene, loose leaf, and and some lines that I jotted down and never got to use.
Threw away the ones you did use as you used them?
Yes.
Same way I work.
It was all in one envelope, so I just grabbed it and went. Oh,
thank you.
It's a 2-hour walk from the station, so I had to leave right after we talked.
2 hours?
I walked for longer than that. I'm one writer who's not going to get flabby. I work out with weights every morning. I was this close to making the Olympic decathlon team.
Really?
Well, this close.
Well, I'll be careful not to argue with you. I'm on the Olympic sloth team. Gold medal. I can fall asleep in any position. To Deathtrap.
To Deathtrap.
To Deathtrap. It'll be toasted with more than ginger ale someday if Sydney's right about it, and I'm sure that he is.
Oh, I hope so. I had to toast it with beer the other night.
Well, we have some. Would you rather?
Oh, no. Thank you.
Darling, are you planning on staying in here?
Yes.
Do you think I overdid it with the set descriptions? Each specific piece of furniture?
Set description? No, I don't recall anything wrong with it. No, this is fine. It couldn't be better. You certainly type well.
Oh.
Electric?
Oh no, I can't see electric typewriters. If there's a power failure, how are you going to work?
Well, that's the whole point in owning one.
Oh.
No. But the real problem with them, at least with Zenobia here, is that you can only get one decent carbon. The second is so muddy as to be almost illegible.
Mr. Anderson, Sydney has some wonderful ideas for improving your play.
I'm sure he does. I can't wait to hear them.
Darling, could you do that in the living room?
There's no good work light in there.
I seem to recall a paisley chair with a light next to it, bright enough for the engraving of Bibles on pinheads.
light is too bright. And the chair is too low. I'll be quiet.
Darling, this is Clifford's first play, and I'm the first person to read it. Now, I'm sure he would rather that our discussion be private. Wouldn't you? Don't be embarrassed to say so.
Oh no, I don't mind Mrs. Brule being here. And in fact, I like it. It makes me feel a little less as if I've been summoned to the principal's office.
Oh, well, I'm sorry if I awe you.
Well, you do. I mean, all these plays and, well, the things that you say, I never would have thought of calling my typewriter anything but Smith Corona.
As long as it answers.
You're welcome to read the play, too, if you'd like, Mrs. Brule.
Oh, I would.
I'm curious to see how women will react to Diane's decision about the gun.
Sydney told me a little bit about it at dinner, but stopped short of the surprises. I don't even know who kills whom.
Oh, well, that's good. You really shouldn't. In fact, I think that was the trouble with Murderer's Child, if you'll forgive me for saying so. From the opening curtain, it was so obvious that Dr. Mannheim was going to bash poor Teddy. I mean, you left no room for doubt. I mean, the audience should suspect, yes, but be absolutely certain? I mean, doesn't that tend to diminish the suspense?
You may have a point. I wish you had told me on the phone that you wanted Myra to read. I'd have asked you to bring another carbon, and then she could be reading right now while we are having our little chat.
Well, I didn't know that she would be interested in... Anyway, I don't have one.
You don't have another carbon?
I only made the one. I figured I would be Xeroxing it off as soon as I was through.
What's the use of 2 or 3 in the age of Xerox?
Well, she could read this one, and we could pass pages back and forth, or I could sit next to you.
Let me think. I need to think for just a minute.
Mr. Anderson, Sydney's just bursting with creative ideas about your play. I've never seen him so enthusiastic. He receives plays in the mail very often, finished plays that are ready for production, supposedly, from his agent, from producers, from aspiring playwrights. Well, usually he just laughs and sneers and says the most disparaging things you could possibly imagine. But I know that he could help your play tremendously. He could turn it into a hit that would run for years and years and make more than enough money for everyone concerned.
Is that what you meant by I'll be quiet?
I will not be quiet. I'm going to say something that's been on my mind ever since your phone conversation. It's very wrong of you to expect Sydney to give you the fruit of his years of experience, his hard-won knowledge, without any quid pro quo, as if the seminar was still in session.
Well, he did offer to give me advice.
It's very wrong of you to have offered to give it to him. I'm the one in this household whose feet are on the ground and whose eyes are on the checkbook. Now I'm going to make a suggestion to you, Sydney, and it may come as a shock to you, but I want you to give it your fair and earnest and thoughtful consideration. Will you do that? Will you promise to do that for me? Put aside the play you're working on. Yes, put aside the play about Helga Tendorf and how she finds murderers and keys under the clothes dryer. Put it aside and help Mr. Anderson with his play. Collaborate with him. That's what I think would be the fair and sensible and rational thing to do in this situation. Deathtrap by Clifford Anderson and Sydney Brule. Unless, of course, Mr. Anderson feels that deference to your age and your reputation and experience, it should be the other way around.
Well, that is a shocker. Put aside the drowning wife?
I thought it was frowning.
Frowning wife? No, what kind of a title is that? Drowning wife is what I'm calling it at the moment. It has these women's lib overtones, as well as the ESP. It's a very timely play.
It will keep, Sydney. People are always interested in psychics who can point at someone and say, this man murdered that man. It will keep. Do for Mr. Anderson what George S. Kaufman did for you.
Well, that is very persuasive, Myra. How does it strike you?
Oh, well, I suddenly feel as if I'm on the spot.
Well, you are. Myra's put you there. She's put us both there, actually.
Well, I thought it should be discussed now before anything was done.
Yes, quite right, quite right. What's your reaction, Clifford?
Well, first of all, I'm overwhelmed, really honored and staggered that Sidney Brule would set aside one of his own plays to help me work on mine. I mean, it's like I'm back there in that theater when I was 12 years old. Who would think that one day I would be standing here, weighing out the chance to work with someone so brilliant?
Yes,
so,
yes, we get the gist of this passage.
It's a golden opportunity that I ought to seize with both hands.
Yes, you should.
But, well, the thing is, it's as if I went to the doctor, one of the world's leading specialists, and he recommended surgery. Even with all my respect for his eminence and his experience, I still would want to get a second opinion, wouldn't I? And I'm sure that your ideas are terrific, but, well, you're right, Mrs. Brule. It wouldn't be fair to hear them now without some sort of understanding or arrangement. And to be perfectly honest, without having heard them, I think Deathtrap is very good as it is. Not perfect, certainly could use some fine-tuning, but I don't think it needs surgery. What I think I ought to do is Xerox off a few copies tomorrow morning and send it to some of those agents that you recommended us. If they too think that major rewrites are in order, then I'll be coming back here, begging you to do what Mrs. Brule suggested, and I'll be willing to make whatever arrangement you think is right. The one that you have with Mr. Kaufman, perhaps. I hope I haven't offended you.
No, not at all.
Mr. Anderson, agents know about contracts, but they don't know about
Don't,
writing
Myra.
plays.
Don't beg him. He'll think he has the wealth of the Indies here, and we're Mr. and Mrs. Jean Lafitte.
Oh, I would never think something like that, Mr. Brule. I'm grateful that you're willing to go out of your way to help me.
But I'm not really, now that I've had a moment to consider the matter. I would never put aside a play as timely and inventive as The Drowning Wife to do wet nurse work on one as speculative as Deathtrap. Sit down, Myra. You're making me nervous standing there hyperventilating. Do as you say. Show it to a few agents, and if you decide that it needs rewrites, get in touch. Who knows, I may hit a snag. It's happened once or twice.
Thank you. I will.
Though I doubt I shall. I have it completely outlined, and I'm more than halfway done, and I have another play ready to go next, about the life of Harry Houdini.
Oh,
Yes, magic is very in now. I mean, just look at the success of the magic show. Houdini's always been a fascination of mine. These are a pair of his handcuffs.
Sidney,